And we welcome you inside the Rink Wide Vancouver studios on a Saturday night. It's Jeff and it's Irv with you as the Vancouver Canucks defeat the Washington Capitals, the top team in the National Hockey League. Yeah, those Washington Capitals. 2-1 is the final score. And this is Rink Wide Vancouver, a presentation of Bet365, whatever the moment. It's never ordinary at Bet365. Be sure to use code NATION when you open an account. And you can hit us up in the live stream chat on YouTube, and we tell you every show about Super Chats, our charity partner this season, the BC Mental Health Foundation, changing the face of mental health and addiction by supporting breakthroughs in care, public understanding, research, and knowledge exchange. 2-1. This is, I'm sure, the way Rick Tocchet drew it up if they were going to beat the Washington Capitals, who came in on a 6-game win streak and with points in 12, 9-0-3 in their last dozen. This one wasn't necessarily pretty, but it just furthers this city's love affair with the captain, Quinn Hughes.
Yeah, and this city's love affair with playing on a Saturday night. As you mentioned off the top there, 3 straight wins on a Saturday night against some big opponents, right? This just wasn't just a team where, the Canucks looked at, they're the best team in the National Hockey League, and that's the Washington Capitals. But you're right. I mean, Quinn Hughes, we're going to have a bunch of stats that are wild about this man. 99th career multi-point game. 6 multi-goal game. Only Matthias Ohlund has more with 7 in franchise history. And look, this guy's doing it at an elite level, and he's taken this team and completely put it on his back, and it's doing it every single night, Jeff. I know the goals and stuff happen, and when the wins happen, we look at it, but he does this in losses. Like, he's the one dragging them into the fight every single game, and you can't say enough about this guy.
Yeah, I thought, the last week or so, it looked like maybe carrying this team had finally caught up with him, and I'm not sure that he was at his best. The Buffalo game, he was on for all 3 of the goals. The Edmonton game the other night, nobody was good enough there. But if there was one guy on this roster, Irf, that was going to single-handedly lead the Vancouver Canucks to victory, without a doubt, it was going to be the captain, Quinn Hughes. Goals number 13 and 14 on the season. Jake DeBrusk leads this team with 17. Quinn has 14. Like, I asked on social, is he going to have the team lead by the end of the season? And then I thought, why the end of the season? Like, is he going to have the team lead by the time we get to March? And it wouldn't surprise me the rate at which he is scoring. You said a bunch of kind of crazy statistics. Let's just throw a few of them out here right now. He has 5 of the team's last 10 goals on his own. 50% of the team's offense. The last 10 goals, Quinn Hughes has scored 5 of them. So the last 2 wins, last Saturday against Edmonton, a 3-2 victory over the Oilers, and this one a 2-1 win over the Washington Capitals. Quinn Hughes has 4 of the 5 goals in those 2 wins, and both game winners. Like, it's him or it's nothing.
Yeah.
It's feast or famine, and when Quinn is dialing, it's feast, and otherwise it's been way too much famine. But hey, for a night, it's fun to be able to laugh and smile and just kind of shake your head at some of these ridiculous statistics. There hasn't been nearly enough levity, and there clearly hasn't been enough wins for this hockey team. That's the 21st victory of the season, by the way, for the Vancouver Canucks. 21-17-10. They're up to 52 points, and if you're scoreboard watching and standings watching, this was an important win. Rick Tocchet called it a must-win the other day after the loss in Edmonton. Calgary, a winner in Minnesota earlier in the day, had pulled 5 points clear of the Canucks, but the Canucks had a chance to respond, and they did. So the Flames and the Canucks both win. The gap is still 3. You don't want to be losing a whole lot of ground at this stage, especially with how rare wins have been for the Vancouver Canucks. So they needed one, and they got this one. It was Quinn Hughes and a series of fortunate bounces. Let's be honest. Capitals, I thought, had a pretty quick start. The shots were 5-1 early. We've seen that an awful lot. Vinny Desharnais takes an early penalty. My goodness. We'll talk more about him.
Do we have to?
Well, yeah, I think we do. But the Canucks penalty killers.
Yeah.
And look, there were no goals on the special teams. All the goals in this game scored at evens. But the Canucks penalty killers came through at some key times when it was either scoreless or they had built a lead. So, credit where it's due. The penalty killing has taken a couple of knocks here of late, but it was good in this hockey game. But the Capitals had some chances. Like, I'm still not sure how Lars Eller didn't put the puck in the net on that centering pass from Alexei Protas off the right wing. And that was a scoreless game at that point. And you look at turning points in the night or on the night, if that one goes in, you're like, Canucks fall behind again for the 100th time, whatever it would have been. they got some bounces. Jacob Chikrin rattled one off the post
And here come
at 2-0. These are some bounces that maybe they were due, that they just haven't been getting over the long haul. Whatever the case, puck stayed out of their net for the most part, and they were able to get the 2 that they needed, built a lead, a little bit of a cushion, and so... and you're right. Remember when one of the storylines around this group was, but who have they beaten? And we asked that an awful lot in the early going. And it was a fair question then. To your point, though, their wins, there haven't been enough of them, but there is a quality to the victories. Washington, the top team in the National Hockey League by standings. I mean, they're the first team to 70 points. Talked about the win streak. Last week it was Edmonton. Before that it was into Toronto with every reason that they shouldn't have been able to beat the Leafs on back-to-back with travel trouble. Win over the Stanley Cup champs in December when Florida came through here. Good win over Colorado as well. There have been some solid victories, and I think that's part of the frustration around this group is you can do it. You can do it as a one-off, but we know that they haven't been able to back up wins with another win, and certainly on home ice, just their 9th win of the year in front of the paying customers at Rogers Arena.
Yeah, you mentioned it right off the top there, Jeff. Rick Tocchet saying that it was a must-win, but they're in that territory right now. If they believe that they have these playoff aspirations and they want to go deep, they've got to win more games than they lose. And the Calgary Flames are above you in the standings. There's other teams that are chasing you right now as well. And another big game on Monday night, right? You have to turn around and enjoy this one tonight, but you get on that plane tomorrow and you head right to St. Louis for that game on Monday. Kevin Lankinen was very good when he needed to be, I think, in this game. You mentioned Vinny Desharnais. We'll get to him in a little bit, but the quality of opponent, I think that I agree with you on the frustration from the fan base, because you can beat Toronto, you can beat Edmonton, you can beat teams like Washington and put up a fight and not, break in the dying seconds of a hockey game where we've seen this team do on too many nights. But the consistency. So we're going to see where they are here in the next week or so if they can follow this up with a consistent effort, because guts of the ice, meet pressure with pressure, all of that, they took care of it, right? Like they were good when they needed to be, and obviously they were led by their captain.
Yeah, let's get to the 3 stars then, because obviously this was an easy choice at the top of the ladder. No doubt about it. This would have been a unanimous decision if this was some sort of fan vote. The 3 stars in the building and the 3 stars here on Rink Wide are the same, and that doesn't always happen. But Quinn Hughes with both goals, including the winner. A manageable workload for him. Rick Tocchet the other night in Edmonton said a couple of guys looked a little tired. I don't think he was talking about Quinn Hughes, but you could understand if he was, given how much he plays. 26.5 minutes for Quinn Hughes, scored on both of his shots, so that's pretty efficient. And just skating circles. There was that shift in the second period that he set up Philip Hronek off the right side. It was in person. It was just magical to watch. 3 Capitals were mesmerized. And this is his secret sauce. He draws 3 guys to him. Well, that frees up space, and he's got the vision to identify, who can take advantage and who can attack out of that space that he's created, and just slides the puck over to Phil Hronek. And Hronek had a pretty good look there. Charlie Lindgren made one of his 23 saves on the night, but Quinn had the 2 goals. Pretty good chance there, could have added to his point total with an assist. Phil Hronek, by the way, had 2 assists in this hockey game. Doesn't figure in the stars, but there's Kevin Lankinen. His 17th victory of the season, 31 saves, was busy in the third, although it's funny, it felt like territorially he was maybe his busiest in the third, and yet by the numbers, the shot totals declined as the night went along, 12, 11, and 9 for the Washington Capitals. And the Caps are the second highest scoring team in the league. It didn't look it tonight. And in fact, both games against the Canucks, they scored a grand total of 3 goals, and we'll get to the 3rd star here in a sec. But for Kevin Lankinen, he had the bout of whatever it is that's been making the rounds. Had to sit out entirely the other night against Buffalo, didn't even back up. Was the backup in Edmonton. Thatcher Demko had his run of games, didn't end well the other night against the Oilers, and we figured that this was the natural decision for Rick Tocchet, was to come to Kevin Lankinen. This one went a little better than his last start, which was Winnipeg. That was the last time we saw Kevin Lankinen in goal for the Vancouver Canucks at the tail end of that 5-game road trip. But he was dialed in, and look, I'm going to cop to it right here, right now on Rink Wide. I told you, I was looking up shutout stats with about 7 minutes to go in the hockey game.
And they were pretty good, some of them.
Yeah, I mean, he was moments away from his 5th shutout of the season.
Yeah.
Doesn't happen for him, but he gets the win, and that's the most important part. But yes, I was hey, got to do your research, got to come prepared to Rink Wide, got to do the homework. And unfortunately, after I did that, his fate was sealed. Third star is Pierre-Luc Dubois. Gets his 10th of the year into double digits. Canuck fans didn't like him in Washington, the way he was running around. He was pretty quiet, I thought, in this hockey game, but found a loose puck in the blue paint. Lankinen probably kicking himself a little bit. That was all that stood between him and a shutout. Had the puck in his equipment, but he never truly had it covered. I don't think the Canucks had any case. They didn't challenge it ultimately. So I think they saw the same sorts of things. But it was there. It was there for the grabbing. Unfortunately, just squeaked free, and Dubois able to get in behind the defenders and tuck it home. And 7.5 minutes to go.
Yeah.
And we saw what happened against Buffalo the other night. We've seen third period collapses by the Vancouver Canucks. This one was not home and cooled by any stretch of the imagination, but that was it for the Washington Capitals scoring. So your 3 stars are the goal scorers and the winning goaltender, Kevin Lankinen. And there you go. 3 stars brought to you by Greta Bar. And we had fun at the Canucks Army watch party the other night. Greta Bar, you hear us talk about it on every episode. I hope you've had a chance to check it out. If you have, you know what we're talking about. If you haven't, no, get down there. You're missing out on the big screens, the arcade games, terrific new street food menu, weekly drink specials as well. And we hope that you'll make plans to join us for the next viewing party that we've got. Greta Bar, the place to be, 50 West Cordova. Greta Bar, let the games begin. And let the wondering begin, is it winning you're in as far as goaltending goes right now?
I think it has to be.
Yeah.
I think you just look at the record of what Demko has had over the last 4 straight starts, and you look at Kevin Lankinen, you mentioned obviously he didn't play that one game, couldn't even dress. He had to call up, Arthur Shelos as his emergency backup there. But if Rick Tocchet is saying that all of these games are must win, they're in that territory where they have playoff aspirations. We've talked about it before on this show, and I think that everyone can agree your best chance to win right now is with Kevin Lankinen in goal. And I don't think that's a slight on Thatcher Demko or anything like that. I just think that if you're in the business of winning hockey games right now, they tried to give Demko a run of games. They actually did it. They gave him those 4 games.
Yeah.
And Demko, wasn't great in a couple of them. And, obviously didn't get the help from the guys in front of him. But Lankinen didn't get help from guys in front of him either, and he had shut the door when he needed to, and I think that was a big thing.
In fact, he had a rookie making his NHL debut. And let's get into that as well. What a day for DPD. Elias Pettersson got called up the other day, went to Edmonton with the team, second time this year that he's been up. And we talked about it post-game the other night. You got the Capitals. They were rolling, coming in here. Do you, don't you? I asked Rick talking about it this morning. And look, this defense in a state of disarray rather, why not? Like, what did you have to lose? And again, you're able to shelter them at home. You can pick your matchups. You can put them in a position to succeed. We thought that it might be Carson Soucy that slid over to the right side, and sure enough, it was. It was a question of which righty was going to come out. Turns out it was Mark Friedman. Not sure that ended up being the right call.
Yeah.
But the final numbers on DPD, 10 minutes and 37 seconds, a couple of hits, a couple of giveaways. There was an early icing there that looked a little jittery. But you know what? For the most part, it was fine. It was fine.
Yeah, and I think that when you look at these games, if you don't notice him much, I think that that's a good thing as well. You don't need him to come out and do these flashy things. You don't need him to score a goal. You don't need him to do any of that. Take care of your own end and get the puck out of the zone. Be a puck mover if you can. That's probably what's going to get you in the lineup more often than not, especially with who they have on their blue line right now. But, Tyler Myers is going to end up coming back here at some point in the next little bit. So, all in all, a decent debut, a good debut because they got the win. I think that's an important thing as well. So, the first time they brought him up, he earned the call-up, get that NHL paycheck for a little bit. But this time, I thought when they brought him up and took him to Edmonton, there was a chance. We talked about it. Are they going to play him? Are they not? And he earned it. He gets in, and, he proves that, he can play at this level.
Right. I just didn't think in Edmonton with all the smoke around that game, and even though McDavid was suspended, you can't shield a guy out on the road. It just made way more sense to do it at home. Now, this is where it gets a little interesting to me. Next weekend is the AHL All-Star Game in Palm Springs. He's Abby's representative as a 20-year-old defenseman going to the All-Star Game in the American Hockey League. Great honor for him. The only reason that he would like to miss that is if he's on the NHL roster and playing. I think they probably will take him out on the road. We'll see. As you said, Tyler Myers' suspension is over now, so he's available. He'll draw back in, and so maybe they do send DPD back. But, if they do, hey, he's got an NHL game under his belt. He's got an NHL win under his belt. He was on the ice for Quinn Hughes' opening goal, so didn't figure in the scoring, but got to be part of the celebration there. And look, again, against a quality opponent like the Washington Capitals, the underlying number is not great. So be it. Live and learn. Has a baseline now. An individual Corsi of 23%. Shot attempts were 13-4. The actual shots were 7-3. But none went in his end. He was on the ice for one. I'm calling this a success for a 20-year-old, a third-round pick, not that far removed from his draft year, to be in the NHL this quickly. Like, this is just check. This is just checking off a ton of boxes for the Vancouver Canucks.
And organizationally, it's no secret how high they view him and what they think of him, and their hierarchy is like him, Lekkermäki, and obviously a little bit down there is Tom Willander, that we're going to see at some point here in the next couple of years. But yeah, I think that for a guy that you just mentioned, 20 years old, being able to go in and do exactly what he did and not have really much pressure on him. Like, I don't think that there was too much pressure on him to go in and, go out and not make mistakes and play the way that he played. So good for him to be able to go and do that. I think that they send him to the All-Star game.
Yeah.
I do. I think that's one of those accolades. Like, you earned that. You played there. I know playing the NHL, but is he that much of a difference maker right now for him to be in the lineup? Right.
Right. And so Myers comes back. He's going back in. They've got Friedman up.
They could call Brandstrom up. They should call Brandstrom.
They probably will send him back. But again, I just think this, now he's played. I think that there can be some trust factor that if they run into issues on the left side, that bring him back up and give him another opportunity. I think we might see him again before this season is through. So the other part of the DPD story here is that he became the 12th player this season to play in both Abbotsford and Vancouver in the big league Canucks' 48th game of the season. They haven't even hit the 50-game mark.
Yeah.
And they have had 12 different guys suit up for both Abbotsford and Vancouver. So that's pretty solid use of your farm system. We've had other guys that we've seen get called up and not play, like DPD did the last time around. That look, a lot's gone wrong for the Vancouver Canucks this season. I think that is one thing that they've got right, though, is the way that they've used the farm system, the way that they use the cap. Obviously, just so much more convenient logistically to have your farm team down the road as opposed to in Utah, or in Utica, not Utah. I just like that fact that they can bring guys in and out. And, I think we'll continue to see that. And how about Abby, by the way? How about a shout out for Abby?
Abby's good.
8 straight wins.
Yeah, Abby's good. They've get like you mentioned, the reason why these guys are going down there and having success is because they're able to come up and utilize the farm system and work with the guys here at the professional level, and have the coaching staff here and different staff go down there and work with those guys as well. So luxury to have to be able to go up the road and be able to get your guys playing here and eventually making the jump to the NHL. So yeah, good for DPD, good for the Canucks to be able to go and do that. But I should Nils Höglander, 100 points on his career tonight.
Yeah, and some really good work on the opening goal. Mm-hmm. Board battle on the side, able to get the puck back to Hughes, let Hughes dial as he worked his way over to the right side of the ice. And look, a shout out to Linus Karlsson again, one of those 12 guys that's played in both Abbotsford and Vancouver. I'm still not convinced that there's a long and prosperous career. I'd be happy to be proven wrong here. But if he's in the lineup, then you want to see him get to the front of the net, stand his ground, cause problems for Charlie Lindgren, the goaltender, and he did that. So credit where it's due. Doesn't figure in the scoring, but that part was noticeable. But yeah, Höglander getting a chance to, like, when I was at the morning skate this morning and you saw Rick Tocchet getting the blender out in a big way, didn't love what I saw. I mean, here you got Elias Pettersson, the OG Elias Pettersson. You're trying to get him going, and you got Höglander with his 3 goals on one wing, and Linus Karlsson. I get that they're countrymen, but There wasn't a whole lot there. I didn't think Petey. I mean, there were a few moments, as there are most nights, but again, this isn't one for his highlight reel. Finishes the night no points on the ice for both of the goals, though. Just 15 minutes and 33 seconds of ice time, but that's what's going to happen when you're basically playing with third-line wingers and a couple of shots on goal for him. But yeah, I'm glad you brought up Höglander.
Yeah.
Tough year for him. You keep thinking that they're kind of like the team itself. Like, can this be any sort of building block? We won't know until Monday in St. Louis. He hasn't earned the benefit of the doubt, but on this night at the very least, you saw some signs of life from Nils Höglander.
Yeah, and I think that it will come at some point here. I mean, look, he's a guy that has scored at this level. We all know it. We all know why he doesn't play certain games. He's just not responsible in his own end, and that's what, it's his knock. And, I understand a lot of the people in this market want, Höglander to be traded for this, that, and the other. He's one of those guys that if he gets traded, he's going to put up 50 points on the second line somewhere. Like, it's probably going to happen. It's just, it's one of those things. I think that, there's still some time left in this season, Jeff. I really do. I think if he can find some chemistry with Elias Pettersson and they can kind of stay together for a little bit, because the Jake DeBrusk experiment, we haven't even started there. Yep. The Jake DeBrusk experiment just hasn't worked at all. And we know how streaky he is and whatever. But if they can keep those two together and maybe they can find something, because they had it last year, then you think it'll go in the right direction.
There are a few other guys that we'll get to here. And the underlings were not pretty.
No.
And there's just no way around it. But for the moment, let's just stay on the Quinn Hughes slant, because we haven't even talked about his second goal. First goal, cuts over to the right side, the backhander, 13th of the season. Saw it last week against Edmonton, a couple in the first period. This one, obviously, it took until early in the second for him to get the second goal, the 2-0 lead. But loved that shift as well. He's just so dynamic, and teams don't know whether to chase after him. Like, they know if they do chase after him, that's trouble. But if you back off and you give him space, that's going to be trouble for you as well. So it's sort of pick your poison. And eventually, puck from the point, bodies in front. Pretty simple formula there. But a seeing eye shot, for a lot of guys, they'd be shooting from that distance and hoping. Quinn probably saw the little bit of daylight and found the back.
There's literally only enough room for a puck.
I know.
Like, on that reverse angle of the replay, there is only enough room for a puck to go in that top corner. And, they said on the broadcast, we watch it every single night. There's maybe two defensemen in the NHL that can do that on the blue line. Cale Makar's one of them. Quinn Hughes the other one. Okay, maybe three, Miro Heiskanen a little bit. But it's a very rare company that Quinn Hughes has. And he does it, the best, in my opinion. And, defenses are going to have to pay more attention to them if they haven't already, right? And I think that that's one of the things that just makes him so dangerous. And it's even more frustrating why they can't generate more offense, because he's got the puck on his stick so much in the offensive zone. He beats guys all the time, plays it in front. There's still nobody there all the time.
Yeah. Just watching the highlight again.
Yeah.
Just so much fun to watch when he's dialed in. And, I pointed out after two periods, and there was still 20 minutes to go, and he had a chance to add to it. But, we tracked him earlier this year when he caught and ultimately passed Alex Edler for the all-time assists record. Well, he's now within striking distance of the all-time points mark for Vancouver Canuck defenders, and it's just kind of funny with the numbers. Alex Edler had 409 points as a Vancouver Canuck. This was Quinn Hughes' 409th game in the National Hockey League, and he's 22 points behind. We marveled when he got the assist record. Or if he's going to smash Alex Edler's points record by a defenseman for this franchise in somewhere in the neighborhood of 500 fewer games. Edler played 925, and Quinn's at 409 right now.
It's insane. It really is when you think about it. And you sit down and you just look at the sheer numbers of what he is doing, the level he is doing it at, and how he is a superstar in this league. In his own right. And, you mentioned the stats there. And like I said before, 99th career multi-point game, 6 multi-goal. Only Matthias Ohlund has more. What was it? He's got now 21 more points than the next closest guy on this hockey team, and that's JT Miller. So what can you say about this guy? He's leading by example. It's leadership. That's exactly what he brings. He's doing it on the ice. Now people question it for him to off the ice, but at least he's going out there and showing that, he plays hard every single night.
Yeah, he's up to 54 points in the season. Now he missed the 4 games. He can't get those back. The team has played 48, but he's going to take a run at a 100-point season. Yeah. And remember, too, he's doing it with the apparatus on his hand. Like he's still
hurt.
There. It's not anywhere close to 100%, and I would have to think that he's probably going to have that thing on through the 4 Nations and maybe afterwards as well. It's just such a treat to watch him do his thing. And, I know what I said on the post game, and I got some pushback on social the other night when I said we had to stop the talk about him for the Hart, but I made it clear that it had really nothing to do with his performance and just more about his team, and that if they continued to spiral and if they miss the playoffs, I don't think that you can have your Hart. You can't have the Hart winner for a non-playoff team. So that's going to be the battle here. Can he continue to drag this team forward and ultimately get them back on the right side of the playoff bar? They've got some work to do. They're off until Monday when they start a 3-game road trip in St. Louis, and that's a big game. And we'll talk more about that a little later on. Calgary goes back into Winnipeg, and you think, okay, well, that's going to be tough. But remember, they won in Winnipeg not that long ago. It's their second trip in there in the last 10 days or so. So Quinn Hughes with both goals for the Canucks, up to 14 now on the season, and that's the other thing. Like, forget 20. Should he be looking at 25? Yeah. And that's another franchise record. Adrian Aucoin scored 23 as a defenseman. He's got 14 with a lot of runway left here, so that's going to be something. But certainly 20 for that talk of, for him to be a Norris guy, he's got to score more goals, he's got to take a run at 20. Well, he's up to 14 now, and 20, if he can stay healthy, 20 seems like it should be a notch at this point.
Well, absolutely. And I mean, look, he's got 14 now. Only 3 of them have come on the power play.
Yep.
Like, those are even strength goals. If this power play starts clicking and maybe starts working, that's another chance for Quinn Hughes to get more opportunities to score some more goals. So, yeah, I mean, look, we've waxed poetically about Quinn Hughes on this show, and everyone does because of how good he is. I think it just appreciate what the Canucks have in this man and the way that he plays the game.
Well, I mean, we could go on all night about the guy, and we've devoted a lot because, it wasn't a high-scoring game, obviously. No. It wasn't a huge high-event game, but there were some things that I do want to talk about. How did JT Miller miss that chance 20 seconds into the second period?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, he's clutching and grabbing right now. He takes a really bad interference penalty in this game. Oof. He did lay out and block a shot near the end, put his body on the line, so you give him some credit there, but I look, there's a lot of stuff going around surrounding JT Miller, and for anyone to say that he's not being affected by it or what have you is you're absolutely out to lunch. But you're right, Jeff. Your job at that point is, you get paid to go and put the puck in the net. Missing chances like that shouldn't happen if you're a guy like JT Miller. And unfortunately, it is. 9 now without a goal. Yeah.
I still, in real time, I saw it. I watched all the replays. He makes the move that he wanted on Lindgren. There's daylight there, and the puck just kind of slides off his stick, and by the time he gets it in a little too deep. So close call. Ultimately, he can laugh about it a little bit because it doesn't cost the Canucks. They win the hockey game. But you're right. The interference penalty on Nick Dowd, that's
just a bad penalty.
Other JT Miller that you just shake your head at in a 2-0 hockey game. Washington hasn't done anything to that point. It just kind of let a sleeping giant lie there. And away from the play, away from the puck, just no need whatsoever. And you take out an opponent, of course you're going to get a call there. And so, again, credit to the Canucks penalty killers. They went 2 for 2 on the night. Capitals only had 2 power play shots. So a nice job on the penalty kill by the Vancouver Canucks. But Miller should never have put his teammates in that position. And that could have been costly. Ultimately, it wasn't. But just a dumb decision on JT Miller's part. But as you said, he did lay out and block a shot there late. So we will give him credit for that one. So Miller's gone 9 without a goal. Hasn't scored since he had the massive night in Montreal, the 2-goal, 2-assist night. You know who else hasn't scored since that night in Montreal? Jake DeBrusk.
Yeah.
Leading goal scorer on this team. Still the leading goal scorer. He's got 17. Brock's got 16. We talk about Quinn now up to 14. But Jake DeBrusk has gone 9 without a goal. His last one was on the power play in Montreal. So it's now 13 without a 5-on-5 goal. If he's not scoring, he's got to find a way to contribute. Irv, the shots at 5-on-5 in this hockey game, a relatively low event hockey game. Jake DeBrusk watched the Washington Capitals outshoot him and the Canucks 9-0 when he was on the ice in this game.
Yeah.
Yikes.
It's just not good. And they brought this guy to come in, gave him the big contract, and we know Jake DeBrusk is a streaky scorer. It's been known his whole career. That's kind of the way that he plays the game. That's how he's found success, is able to go on these streaks and these run of games and earn himself a pretty good contract out of it. But it's not working with Elias Pettersson right now. And if you're a guy that's a highly paid guy on your own line there, oh man, and you're not playing well defensively either, then something's got to give.
Right, and so again, when we saw Rick Tocchet run his lines out at morning skate, Pettersson was with the two Swedes, Höglander and Karlsson. Now all of a sudden, Pius Suter, who's about as cold as anybody on this hockey club, and there's a lot of candidates, but Pius Suter is centering your leading goal scorer. Like, how does that make sense? And the numbers bear it out. Like that, I don't need to see any more of that.
Yeah.
They got to figure something. I don't know if it means going down to the farm and bringing Atu Ratu up and giving him a chance somewhere in there.
This guy that deserves a call up.
Because it's so quiet around Pius Suter. 23 games now without a goal and just 1 point in his last 15. And you're asking him to center Jake DeBrusk and Connor Garland, and that combo just didn't work. And then you had Danton Heinen back where he started the season. I mean, he's moved all over the place. But it does expose the flaws and the weaknesses in this lineup when you start to move Elias Pettersson around, and then you wind up with Danton Heinen back in the top six. And I don't think that, for the good of the hockey club, that's the best place for Danton Heinen, certainly in the season that he has had. So we talk about Jake DeBrusk, a real struggle for him. But this also brings us to Vinny Desharnais.
Yes.
And we mentioned the early penalty. We know what happened in Edmonton the other night. 3 penalties, 2 power play goals. Vincent Desharnais stayed in the lineup. I mean, they plugged DPD in, and somebody had to come out, and I kind of thought that for a night, I mean, we talked about it. Like, it seemed like the logical candidate. But Desharnais stayed somehow. Mark Friedman came out of the lineup. Again, underlying numbers, the shots in this hockey game were 11-2 at 5-on-5 for the Capitals in the 15 minutes that Vincent Desharnais, like, those aren't NHL kind of numbers here these last few nights. And it does beg the question. Now, again, Tyler Myers' suspension is over. Free Tyler Myers. He'll get back in there on Monday. Desharnais looks like a third pairing guy, but I mean, he hasn't played like even a third pairing guy the last couple of games. So, yeah, I mean, Noah Juulsen skating again this morning. First time we had seen him since the Winnipeg game. So I would assume that he's getting closer here at this point. And I know that Noah Juulsen hasn't had a great season, and he's not everybody's favorite, but I think you'd take Noah Juulsen and let Vinny have a seat for a game or two here, because it's just not happening for the big man.
No, it's ugly. It really is. It doesn't look good either. I put out on X, Jeff, during the game, it's actually wild how the Canucks think they don't have a better option on defense than Vinny Desharnais. Now, I don't know if that's Rick Tocchet. I don't know if that's Adam Foote. I don't know if that's Patrick Alvin. And we don't even know if it's Jim Rutherford. But collectively, if those four minds can look at a hockey game and just watch tape and see that, is it Mark Friedman? Is it Eric Brandstrom in Abbotsford? Is it really anybody that can move the puck, that can come in and just have a little bit of a better effort than Vinny Desharnais? Then I don't know what we're doing here. Like, I really don't. And you feel for the guy. He signed the contract. He had an awful night in Edmonton. And maybe they wanted to give him, something here and be like, okay, well, we'll see if you can play a little bit better. But there's been too many nights where you look at it and he's the wrong guy on the end of every single argument and everyone's beef that it's Vinny Desharnais. He's the one that's got to come out. And they signed him to a 2-year deal.
Ended up playing 15 minutes and 42 seconds. You're not looking for offense from him, so no shots on goal. Just the one hit, though. A couple of block shots, but the early penalty takes the tripping penalty. And, again, that could have been costly. It wasn't at the end of the night. But, it's just tough to watch right now. He's such a likable guy, big personality, but ultimately he's paid to play hockey. And it's been a real grind for him. And I mentioned that list of 12 guys that have played in both Abbotsford and Vancouver. I've had some people in the chat asking who they were. They couldn't figure them all out very quickly. DPD became the 12th. PDG is up. Linus Karlsson is up. Mark Friedman is up. Max Sasson is up right now. So pretty strong representative. Artur Silovs was up earlier, and of course played games earlier this season for the Vancouver Canucks. Guillaume Brisebois not that long ago. Brandstrom, you mentioned him. Archdeep Baines, Jonathan Lekkerimäki, Atu Ratu, and Nils Oman. Yeah, way back when. Nils Oman was one of the guys early. Speaking of Lekkerimäki, and it's making the rounds here. Again, Abbotsford won. Just a really strange video of him crashing headlong into the end boards. The first time I saw it, it's certainly not funny, and I hope he's okay. But it was such an awkward looking fall. I wasn't even sure what I was kind of looking at, so people can find that out there on social. But this is a guy, they need him healthy, they need him in the lineup. I'd like to see him back in Vancouver here before too long. So fingers crossed that it was just an awkward fall, and that's all it was.
Yeah, it didn't look good at all. He's another guy that's lighting up the American League right now as a rookie. So good for him. He's been playing some really good hockey of late, and you hope it's nothing serious. Jeff, we have the captain. Do we want to hear from the captain post game, or are we going to get to something else first?
We're going to have to talk about the captain on the other side, Alex Ovechkin. We haven't even touched on him, but we'll get there. But yes, I want to hear from Quinn Hughes. So let's get inside the Canuck locker room and hear from Quinn Hughes. Both goals for the Canucks in a 2-1 win over Washington.
And obviously the result, but I thought, especially in the second period there, we really took it to them, and we played with a lot of pace. We stuck to our staples. At times we were simple when we needed to be, and we grinded out a win against a really good team.
How important was it for you guys, as you alluded to continue taking it to them after you built the 1 goal and then the 2 goal lead?
Yeah, can't have any let up, because that's when good teams take advantage. So I thought we did a pretty good job at just containing them.
That's been something that I know Tocchet's wanted more of you guys lately, just being able to shut down a game. What does it say about the fact that you were able to do it tonight?
Yeah, it's massive just because, how we've been playing, obviously not good enough, and to come out here against a really good team and, play as well as we did, that's a really good sign. But also in saying that, we got to find a way to bring that consistency.
How about Lankin tonight?
Yeah, he's been amazing all year long. Just made so many big saves, even early in the first, a couple in the second. He was spectacular again.
On your first goal, we've seen you create a lot of space to the outside. What did you see that made it so you could cut through the inside like that?
Yeah, I just noticed, probably they were expecting me to, try to push it to the outside on my forehand, and I just got to take the ice that they give me. Saw a couple other times where I had to spin back because they're just kind of taking that outside away, but I'm fine with that. And I've worked on my backhand and coming across the top a lot over the last couple of years. So.
In your second goal, what are you looking for there as you're walking on? Are you looking at the goalie? Are you looking at the screens?
I'm just trying to get it through the first layer. I can see that PD was popping high, so I knew that he had a chance to get a tip on it or screen the goalie. And really, there's just you got to give yourself a chance. There's so much traffic in front. If I usually get it past that first guy, those wristers are usually it's hard for the goalie to see.
There you go, Quinn Hughes, giving credit to Kevin Lankinen in there, like the fact that they were able to build on their lead and then close out a very good Washington team. Again, best team in the National Hockey League by the standings. I didn't think they were terribly impressive, but I can't argue with the numbers. They came in on a 12-game point streak. Coming off a shutout in Seattle the other night, but just didn't have their good stuff. And again, both games this year between the Caps and the Canucks end 2-1. The other one went to overtime, so the Vancouver Canucks gave up 2 goals in regulation against the Washington Capitals, and actually outscored the Caps 3-2 in regulation. But Pierre-Luc Dubois, all 3 of the Washington goals, they needed somebody else to score, and that somebody else for a lot of years for the Washington Capitals has been Alex Ovechkin. Let's get to the stat that stands out, and then we can talk a little bit about Ovi's night. But the stat that stands out is that 179 goalies have allowed an Alex Ovechkin goal in his time in the National Hockey League. Kevin Lankinen is not on that list, and won't see the Capitals again this year. We'll see where things go for Ovi, but that's a list you don't want to be on, and Kevin Lankinen isn't. I think he's got 4 against Thatcher Demko over his time in the National Hockey League. It's crazy. He's played so many games and so few against the Vancouver Canucks because of the East-West thing. But for Alex Ovechkin, this was career game 1,459.
It's crazy.
And just his 28th game against the Vancouver Canucks.
Yeah.
So Kevin Lankinen had to stop Ovechkin. 7 shots on goal on 9 attempts. I thought he was most dangerous off face-offs in the offensive zone, quick draws, and he had a couple of chances in the first period that I made note of. It is interesting, and I had some people telling me this before the game, that where he has been such a staple and a fixture in that face-off dot on the power play, he's essentially a decoy now. Like, he's out there, and I suppose if the puck comes to him in his wheelhouse, he's probably still got a few goals left in him from that spot on the ice. But it's really the other 4 Capitals zip the puck around and at times don't even look at him. And so, there wasn't anything that happened on the power play with Alex Ovechkin that I made note of. And in fact, as I look at his night in totality, 6 shots at even strength and just 1 power play shot. So came into the night 19, back of Wayne Gretzky, 20 to be the greatest goal scorer in National Hockey League history. But it is interesting to note that 2 of his last 3 goals have been empty netters, including the one in Seattle the other night. The other one was a 3-on-3 overtime goal, 1-0 win in Ottawa last weekend. So 5-on-5, there ain't a whole lot happening for Ovi here. And I just wonder, he needs 20 goals to be the NHL's goal-scoring king. I don't know if there's enough runway remaining in. He'd need 20 goals in. This was their 50th game, so they've got 32 to go. He needs 20 goals. He can get hot. We've seen it. Certainly, we've seen it from him. But something tells me after watching him here, I think this chase may push into next season.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to watch because what if he gets to 15, 16, 17, and then the playoff goals don't count?
Nope.
Right? So might go into next season. But I kind of agree with you a little bit on him being the decoy there. And is it by design? Is it one of those things where
he's a hell
you
of a
just
decoy?
Yeah, I know. But you have to respect the shot because he still has it and he's proven that he still has it. But there are other players on that team. Connor McMichael's having a hell of a season too. I mean, Tom Wilson's playing well. PLD obviously doing what he's been able to do this season. I mean, Ovi's kind of there. You got to look at him. You have to be aware of where he is. But there are also times where he has shifts where he doesn't touch the puck. And he just skates around for 20, 30 seconds and then goes back to the bench.
I mean, speed has never been his thing.
No.
And
Power
since coming back
definitely has.
from the leg injury, he looks like he labors to keep up with the pace of the modern game. But, I mean, he's in it now to get the record. He'll get there. It's just a question of how long is it going to take him and ultimately when will that game be? And you're right. I guess the other thing, too, is as he gets closer, how much do the Capitals put him in positions but I mean, at 39, he's got to he can't play 25 minutes a night, and they are trying to win hockey games and lock down, top spot in their conference and home ice and all that kind of stuff. So it's going to be fascinating, that dynamic. How much of a distraction, how much of the chase takes on a life of its own. Again, came in needing 19 to tie, leaves this night still with no goals, but did have a game high 7 shots on goal. All right, we talked about Kevin Lankinen. Let's hear from Kevin Lankinen, or we'll get
We'll
there.
get to Kevin Lankinen. Yeah.
Let's talk about the guy at the other end of the ice, Charlie Lindgren.
Yeah.
The crazy diving save of PDG. We're sitting here in the studio watching, and so all we've got is the same view that everybody does. PDG looked like natural, empty net, easy, money on the board, and out of nowhere, Charlie Lindgren, the right-handed catching goaltender, dives into the screen and looked like a center fielder just laying out to make a glorious catch in the outfield. Spectacular highlight stuff.
Yeah, Ryan Miller in 2016.
You had the quick recall.
Yeah, I
give you
remember
credit for
that. I remember.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if it was a Canuck goalie, but then I did remember Ryan Miller, 2016. It was against, I think, Henrik Zetterberg. But yeah, this one was awesome. Full dive out there. It's great. Stuff like that's fun when you get to see it because you never really do.
Like Ken Griffey Jr.
Yeah, definitely.
Pick your center fielder. And look, Lindgren had the shutout the other night. Did the Canucks catch a break not seeing Logan Thompson? I don't know, maybe.
Yeah, exactly.
Lindgren gave up 2 goals. The Capitals didn't lose because of goaltending in this hockey game, but they have such an interesting goaltending tandem. And Logan Thompson, who's a Calgary native, and I guess he's played to the point this year that he gets to call the shots. He wanted the game in Calgary. The road trip's going to continue. It's going to take them to Calgary. Logan Thompson wanted the game in his hometown. So Lindgren coming off the shutout. He had been injured. He had missed 10 days. I think they wanted to, kind of like Demko, get him back up and running a little bit. So back-to-back starts for him for the first time this season, by the way. First time that Charlie Lindgren has played back-to-back games. Logan Thompson is 22, 2-3 on the season. And not on Team Canada.
That's the crazy thing.
And
he's not on Team Canada.
.925 save percentage over 27 games, and he's not on Team Canada.
I mean, neither's Mark Scheifele. Zach Hyman's not. I mean, there's a lot of players around there. Yeah, but you're right. In a tournament that's short, I'm not going to get into it quickly. In a tournament that's short, when your goalies already aren't good, like Logan, you have Logan Thompson sitting right there. We have Kevin Lankinen.
All right,
now.
Wow. Let's hear from the Canucks winning netminder, who makes 31 saves on this Saturday night. Saturday, apparently the only night. Canucks need to either schedule more games on Saturdays or they got to figure out how to win on some of the other days of the week. But here's Kevin Lankinen after the victory over the Capitals.
They were really good in front of me, allowed me to see the pucks, and obviously Quinn took over the game, showed what a great leader he is, stepping up in situations like this, so that was huge.
I think it's been 10 or 11 days since you played. What did it do for your confidence to come back in and have a performance like that?
Yeah, I was excited to be back. Felt good, obviously. It was a good challenge, but I was kind of looking forward to it. Just playing a home game, Saturday night doesn't get much better than that, so it was cool.
Seems like there's a couple of big tests early. I know you made that save on Ovechkin about 4 minutes in there. What does it mean to get those kind of stops early in the game?
Yeah, obviously it probably just builds the confidence a little bit, but the way I see the game, it's always just one puck at a time. Like no matter what happens, it's always a 0-0 game in my head. So just trying to stay present and focus on the next shot. So that was a good game.
You talked about Quinn. What have you seen out of him over the last few weeks here?
No, I'm just extremely impressed. Obviously playing against him the last few years, but now seeing him on a daily basis, just how he drags guys along and takes over games is remarkable. I'm just really happy to be witnessing that and just being on the same side of that show kind of stuff.
You always have to be focused off draws in the D zone, but you have to be extra focused when you know 8's out there and he can get the puck away as quickly as he did on a couple of those chances off the face-offs.
Yeah, I mean he's probably going to break the record, going to be the best goal scorer of all time. So all credit to him. He's an excellent player and he'll go down as one of the greatest. So he's always a good challenge and a fun guy to meet.
Yeah, but as we said, Ovi doesn't have the book on Kevin Lankinen and hasn't been able to score a goal on him in his career. Of course, Lankinen's going to represent Finland at the Four Nations Cup, and we've got another watch party that we want to tell you about. It doesn't involve Finland, but you can certainly watch the Finnish games, I'm sure, at Greta. But our next watch party is going to be Canada and the U.S. at Greta on February 15th, and we've got a ticket giveaway, we've got signed memorabilia, there's going to be trivia, t-shirt tosses, all night long. It's your chance to party it up and watch the first best-on-best hockey at this level that we have seen in a while. Tickets are $10 if you're looking to upgrade your experience. There's a VIP option for $40, which includes a Greta burger, a beverage, and an arcade game card. Doors open an hour before puck drop, so come early, grab your spot, soak up the atmosphere. Get your tickets today at nationgear.ca and join us for an unforgettable evening, Canada and the U.S. on Feb 15th. All right. Lankinen is such a cool customer. He just it doesn't matter if it's Ovi, doesn't matter who it is.
Yeah.
Just always talks about, in his mind, it's that next one, save the next one, and did a nice job of that tonight. So as I'm with you, I do think it has to kind of be winning. You're in right now. This is a team that needs to build on this one. And we've said this way too many times. Coming off the Toronto game, should have been a good building block, and then they fell flat on their face in Winnipeg last week against Edmonton, and then the Buffalo game. Just looking at this, like, I didn't love the third period, again, especially in light of what happened against Buffalo on Tuesday. I mean, third period in Edmonton was it was garbage time. That doesn't matter. But, you know, they took a 2-1 lead to the third period against Buffalo and ended up losing 3-2. Here they take a 2-0 lead to the third period. And, again, there's just this tendency to sit back. I was just going over it because I was like, when was the last time they scored a third period goal?
You have to go back, don't you?
In the last 5 games, the Canucks have one third period goal, and it was Nils Höglander breaking Connor Hellebuck's shutout bid when I talk about garbage time.
Yeah.
That's a little troubling. That, again, they did well to build their lead and extend it, but, you know, the game is 60 minutes for a reason, and you kind of got to keep pushing forward here. So, it would be nice to see them score a little bit more in the third, but ultimately they were able to hold off the Caps. They gave up the 1, but that's all they gave up. So bend but do not break, and they win it by a score of 2-1. Now, off to St. Louis to start this 3-game road trip. St. Louis, Nashville, Dallas. So they're working their way through 3 of the Central Division teams, and the game against the Blues is, all games are big games for the Canucks right now, but, we talk about them not wanting to lose ground to the Calgary Flames. They are 2 points in front of the St. Louis Blues, so proverbial 4-pointer there. And that's where things can get dicey. If you fall behind a bunch of teams, like when you're just chasing one and you're locked on one team, if they slip, you can make up ground. But if you're chasing multiple targets, pretty good chance that one of those teams is going to get on a bit of a heater and, leave you in the dust. So they're not in that position just yet, but that's what makes the start of a road trip. Again, this idea, can they string consecutive wins together? Something they haven't done since the end of November. So there's lots to play for. And again, we'll ask the question, what can they do in terms of taking the good out of this game, taking it with them to St. Louis for Monday. Before Monday, though, there are other games to keep an eye on around the National Hockey League, and I know you are doing just that. It's time for our line of the night, brought to you by Bet365.
Yeah, I wasn't good in the last one, so let's hope we can redeem myself here for Sunday tomorrow. Open account with Bet365 today. You can bet on a huge range of markets, Jeff, as long as you use the code NATION. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. I like the Colorado Avalanche. After losing to Boston this morning, they got the Rangers tomorrow morning in New York. Ottawa Senators at home against the Utah Hockey Club. The Ottawa Senators have had multiple weekends of back-to-back games. They have won every single one of those games. So I like the Ottawa Senators in that one against Utah, and I like the Vegas Golden Knights in the against the Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers. So you put those together, some pretty good odds.
The game in St. Louis, by the way, another prime game. So if you're one of those people that doesn't subscribe, you better figure out a way or a place to watch the Canucks on Monday afternoon. Blues lost 2-0 at home to Dallas tonight. Stars were playing on back-to-back, so that's a good win on the road for Dallas. But St. Louis, just the definition of average. They've won 3 of their last 6. They're 8-7 in their last 15 hockey games. They are 23-23-4 on the season.
Same amount of points as the Canucks.
Yeah, it's just like right down the middle. They don't do anything exceptionally well. Jordan Kyrie's having a decent season. Leads them with 21 goals and 42 points. And they've got 7 double-digit goal scorers, so they do have some guys. Robert Thomas, Pavel Buchnevich, Braden Shen, Jake Neighbors. Dylan Holloway scored the overtime winner. Remember Thatcher Demko's season debut was against the St. Louis Blues back on the 10th of December, and the Blues beat the Canucks then. They made their coaching change early. Jim Montgomery behind the bench. Interesting, too, that Joel Hofer actually has better statistical numbers than Jordan Binnington, who was in goal tonight. So I don't know who the Canucks will see on Monday, but the start of the road trip that has days between each game, so Monday, Wednesday, Friday, St. Louis, Nashville, and Dallas, and we shall see who's available to Rick Tocchet. We mentioned that Tyler Myers is done. He's out of the league's penalty box. He's served his 3-game suspension, so he's going to get plugged in. Kiefer Sherwood didn't play tonight, missed his first game of the season. He was around the rink. I saw him in the hallway this morning, and I'm still not sure if he left due to like some sort of knock or if it was the flu that had been making the rounds. So whatever the case, Rick Tocchet said, it's not any sort of long-term thing. I would expect that he goes on the road and he might be ready to play. Dakota Joshua was a full participant at practice this morning, or the game day skate, and wasn't in a non-contact jersey.
Yeah.
So Tocchet said he wasn't sure if he would play Monday, but he figured by Wednesday Dakota Joshua will be ready, and Noah Juleson back out with the group as well. So they've got lots of bodies. They're going to have some roster moves here and decisions to make as they head out on the road.
So we'll finally, maybe on this road trip, Jeff, get the entire roster healthy
Knock on wood
in a
for them.
hockey game. Yeah, between now and then.
That would be terrific because that then eliminates everything.
100%, yeah.
You know, people have been talking and waiting. Well, rarely in the season, especially in the middle of the season, rarely are you 100% healthy. And I'm sure some guys are playing through some things, without a doubt. They're playing through some things. But in terms of being available, Rick Tocchet may have every player on his roster at his disposal as early as Monday in St. Louis. So, again, it wasn't the prettiest of hockey games, but damn, given the alternative and what we've seen on way too many nights, take a win for the Vancouver Canucks and just marvel at the mastery that is Quinn Hughes, up to 14 goals now on the season. And he's fun to watch when he starts to rev it up, and he's done it a lot for the Vancouver Canucks this season, and he's going to have to keep doing it, and hopefully it inspires some of his teammates to find a way to hit that next year, because that's been one of the mysteries, is how guys can sit in that room and look at 43 and think, like, he's doing it on a nightly basis at such a special level. How can I not elevate? And not enough guys have, obviously, but only needed Quinn Hughes on this night, at least in the goal-scoring department.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's enough. And this one was one of those nights, 2-1 victory. They snapped the 2-game losing streak. They had lost 4 of their last 5, so a little momentum as they jump on the jet and head for St. Louis.
Yeah, and look, I think that the one thing that we're all going to look for, and everyone that watches this team and cheers for this team, I'm sure, is can they string together another good effort, another solid effort, take care of the things that Rick Tocchet always talks about, and being able to do that and go get a road win. You're a good road team. You're not a very good home team, so go and get it done. And, the team that's chasing you in the standings, can you take the full 2 points from them and then go into a difficult place to play that is Dallas, and, a Nashville team that also gives up a lot of goals.
Yeah.
So, it's and for a team that doesn't score a lot of goals, maybe they need to see a Nashville team like that.
And then the trip finishes on Friday in Dallas. Stars are the only team the Canucks haven't faced yet this season. There's your little trivial note at the end of Rink Wide Vancouver. So they can cross that name off the list by the time they roll into the Lone Star State on Friday. Then they have to hustle home, and they got Detroit next Sunday. So not much turnaround after a quick 3-game road trip. And then they'll be into that final week of games that'll lead them into the Four Nations face-off break. And the final week there is Detroit on the Sunday, Colorado, New Look, Colorado, down to San Jose for a one-off, and then the Leafs come calling. Another Saturday night on February the 8th. Toronto will be in for the 4 o'clock
Saturday
start. So, hey, before we run, because I don't think any one game at this point changes an awful lot in the big picture for the Vancouver Canucks. Again, making waves on Elliot Friedman's headline segment in the second intermission in the early game on Hockey Night in Canada. Sounded like they were certainly in on some of the activity around the National Hockey League on Friday that resulted in the big trade between Colorado and Carolina, with the Blackhawks being the third party there. But what do you make of the fact that Fried's thrown out the Buffalo Sabres again? They were linked to the Sabres before Christmas as well. So,
yeah, let's start with. We can start with the Carolina Hurricanes. I think that the Canucks were convinced that they had a deal for Elias Pettersson. I really do. I think that people around the National Hockey League and people that I've talked to have definitely said that. So clearly there's something there. The Buffalo Sabres are definitely interested in Elias Pettersson. They always were. It's just a matter of what the Canucks think Elias Pettersson is worth. Is it going to be, a couple of players? Is it going to be a pick and what have you? So far, any offer that they've gotten for either Elias Pettersson or JT Miller hasn't met what they want. And if there's one thing that we know about this management team, Jeff, is Jim Rutherford is going to get what he wants. That's what I think. So because of that, something might take a little bit longer, but where there's smoke, there's definitely a lot of fire. So it's going to be fun to pay attention to over the next week or so. I think we are going to see some chaos again here at some point. It's never going to go away when it involves this hockey team. And it's big names, right? It's JT Miller. It's Elias Pettersson, a guy that just signed a $90 million deal. It's anyone and everyone except Quinn Hughes.
Well, we always say it after you see trade activity around the National Hockey League. You hope that maybe this sort of lubricates the wheel. And if there were teams that thought they were in on any of those big names that moved, now do they look to a plan B? So we'll see where it goes. Again, one win against the Washington Capitals doesn't change anything in the big picture, I don't think, for the Vancouver Canucks. So we're kind of living minute by minute, day by day. And again, we'll see who's on that plane when they go to St. Louis. We'll see who's off the plane when they arrive in St. Louis. Well, I guess if they're on the plane when they leave, they're going to be on the plane when they arrive.
Absolutely.
Handing somebody a parachute. I don't think it works that way. All right. I think that does it for us here on this night. Again, nice to see a few smiles in that Canucks locker room after they defeat the Washington Capitals by a score of 2-1. Big night for Quinn Hughes and Kevin Lankinen, two of our 3 stars here on Rink Wide. Mike Rogerson, one of the other stars, behind the scenes helping us get this stream up and running, and we thank him for all of his help. For Irf, I'm Jeff. That's going to do it. 2-1, the Canucks over the Washington Capitals. Monday is the next episode of Rink Wide Vancouver.